Alright, so the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the playoffs right now, and they recently tied up their series with the Habs. That's cool, that's dandy, that's a good sign of a team going out there and rebounding after what was a very traumatic Game 1, and we all kind of know that if there's any team that's going to go out there and win the Canadian side of the playoffs, a lot of people are putting their money on that team being Toronto this year. But I want to take a little bit of a look at the past, because when it comes to the Maple Leafs, we know just winning a playoff series by itself, this event would be so cathartic for so many Leafs fans who have been out there witnessing almost wins, witnessing just bare tip of the tongue kind of losses over there against Boston, against Washington, against Boston, against Boston. Yeah, I've been saying Boston a lot, eh? As well as the Columbus Blue Jackets too. But the Toronto Maple Leafs are in a spot where when you take a look at how things have gotten to this point, where in 2021 they're the best they've ever been in the past, 10 years, there indeed are a few names that stand out along the road as to where the Leafs are today, and I wanted to make this video here to talk about one of those guys and how he's pretty much revealed the biggest thing that he regrets about his time in Toronto. Now, I make it sound super dramatic, but that's just because I think it's super interesting to highlight this point. But this in itself is a Red Wings video too, because we're talking about a guy on Detroit who is indeed wanting to come back. So let's go over to this article on NHLTradeTalk.com. The Red Wings know 2 pending UFAs who want to return to their franchise. And you can see right here in the little text, 2 pending UFAs in Jonathan Bernier and Marc Staal both say they're open to returning to the Red Wings. This article is mostly Detroit-based, going over the entire profile of both of these guys. Marc Staal is a veteran who was sent over to Detroit in a New York Rangers trade for future considerations. Jonathan Bernier was a guy who was acquired by the Red Wings as well. Bernier is a guy that was acquired back in the 2018 offseason, something like that. I remember he was really good with the Colorado Avalanche, so much to the point that it actually ended up making the playoffs. And after that season ended up, Bernier was a free agent. He went over to Detroit, and he played 3 seasons out there, ending off his entire tenure with a .914 save percentage in 2021. Not bad, honestly. 2.99 goals against average as well certainly isn't bad on a team in Detroit that wasn't the best, and the fact is Bernier alongside of Thomas Greiss were honestly a pretty good tandem, all things considered, regarding the team they played for as well as the competition they would face. This NHL Trade Talk talks about how Marc Staal's in a spot where he's got a few options, but he would indeed be open to staying with Detroit, even though many Red Wings fans thought that he was actually acquired by Detroit in order to be traded for other assets, eventually at the deadline, which ended up not happening, which is why now he is Detroit property, technically speaking, who is indeed expiring. If he gets brought back, hey, I honestly would be okay with it. Just bring him back 1 or 2 years, whatever. You can maybe flip him at the deadline or something if there are any teams that want him by the time that comes. Same thing goes for Jonathan Bernier. He indeed is expiring as well, and we have some comments over here going over just exactly how he would be willing to stay. This is all according to Ansar Khan of MLive.com. He says, "My family and I really like it here in Detroit. I feel comfortable at the rink and on the ice, and as a result, it would be my number 1 choice to definitely stay here." And so firstly, hey, that's awesome. The fact that Jonathan Bernier likes the Red Wings enough to be willing to stay here, even though he's 32 years old, even though he's in a spot where he spent so much time with the Kings, with the Leafs, with the Ducks, and the Colorado Avalanche, that the Red Wings in 2019, 2020, 2021... these are some of the worst teams that he has played for, statistically speaking, compared to the rest of their leagues. So the fact that he's actually willing to stay here, hey, it's pretty great. But then he goes over why exactly that is. The article explores this over here. Either this means that these players, Staal and Bernier, see the potential in what the team is building, or they simply love the atmosphere and environment being created by the organization. There are some good young players coming up in the pipeline, and while the Red Wings probably won't necessarily be competitive while these specific players are part of the roster, perhaps these veterans are open to being a part of the foundation set for future Red Wings stars. Jonathan Bernier said this, "The one thing that I regret in Toronto is going through the pain, but not being there when they're getting better." And you know what? That's deep. That's the entire reason I'm making this video. This one quote over here from Jonathan Bernier talking about the pain. The pain of being on a rebuilding franchise for years. And then, poof, you're gone. Just like that. Right before the team gets better. Jonathan Bernier, if I remind you over here, is a guy that played a boatload of games with the Maple Leafs during some of their worst years in the 2010s. Bernier was here in 2013-14 up until 2015-16, and these were the years where you take a look at where the Leafs were finishing in the standings. Okay, in 2013-14, they were 6th in the Atlantic Division. In 2014-15, they were 7th. In 2015-16, they were last in the league. The Maple Leafs in these years ended up taking what was pretty much the foundation of what is their big core today in the drafts of 2014, 15, and 16. In 2014, they drafted William Nylander top 10. In 2015, they drafted Mitch Marner top 5. And then in 2016, they drafted Auston Matthews number 1. The arrival of Auston Matthews was not even really lived by Jonathan Bernier because Matthews' first season with Toronto, 2016-17, was the season that Jonathan Bernier went to Anaheim. And it's kind of crazy just taking a look at how things have gone about where the Leafs are apparently really good now. Sure, Jonathan Bernier wasn't like the best guy in the world. He certainly had his flaws, but just being one of these core assets in the 3 years that the Leafs went from, okay, we're in the playoffs, we're playing against Tuukka Rask, oh no, we lost in Game 7, it was 4-1. And then they trade away Kessel, they trade away all these guys, they do all these moves. Being a part of a rebuilding organization is hard, and back then, Jonathan Bernier was in his mid-20s, so even though he certainly was an NHL-caliber goaltender, he was wasting what would have been the prime of his career in a rebuilding organization, and now he's in a spot where that team that he was on, that team that he shed his blood for over 3 seasons, they're now regarded as a guarantee for making the 3rd round. And it's only really a guarantee by some people. I honestly think it's a lot more likely than unlikely that Toronto makes the 3rd round because of the fact that they're playing Winnipeg, Edmonton, or Montreal in these playoffs to kick things off. But Bernier, man, I can only imagine how it feels as a fan watching the Maple Leafs go from 0 to hero, from last, 1st overall Auston Matthews to what they are today. What more when you're the guy that was literally the goaltender of that last place team? So for Bernier to come out here and talk about how he's willing to stick around with Detroit this time around, hey, I'm not going to say that he has been here trying to say that the Red Wings are going to be the next Leafs, but like just acknowledging the direction of the rebuild and where things are going in the future. If Bernier's got some evidence to take a look at and say, yeah, this Red Wings team is going to be better, it's all those guys they picked up in those drafts where Bernier was here and where the Red Wings were bad. Moritz Seider in 2019, hey, that's a great pickup right there. Red Wings fans on this channel, y'all know how much I love Moritz Seider. In 2020, you guys got Lucas Raymond, 4th overall. That's a great pickup right there. And then in 2021, the Red Wings have another top 10 pick. Let's see who they pick this time. Bernier's in a spot where he is legitimately playing on a team that honestly does have some pretty good contention towards being good later. And since Bernier is 32 years old, who was on a rebuilding team for so long, I'm not really too sure if any good playoff caliber teams would go out there and have Jonathan Bernier as their top priority in free agency. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense. Firstly, from a familial point of view, from how exactly Bernier feels about the city itself in Detroit here, to say, yeah, you know, my family likes it here, I like it here, it's cool here in Detroit. Furthermore, I want to be a part of a team that learns how to win from the ground up. What's going to happen if I leave Detroit, all of a sudden in 3 years I'm with some other bottom feeder team, and Detroit's at the top of the league? It's going to be Toronto all over again. And, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. It's just so fragile, the timelines of NHL careers and how these things can intertwine with one's goals and ambitions. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to win a Stanley Cup. That's why you play hockey. That's why you're in the NHL. And for Jonathan Bernier to dedicate 3 years where you're on a team that's one of the worst in the bottom third of the entire league, to seeing that team grow and develop into what it is today without you being on it, yeah, that's emotionally impactful, man. So, talk to me in the comments what you think about Bernier and his comments over here, the regret he has about leaving Toronto, and how it plays into his decision to wanting to stick with the Red Wings. Obviously, it's Stevie Y's call. If Stevie Y doesn't want it to happen, then I guess it's not going to happen. But either way, talk to me in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this with Josh Rolls 99. And bye.